To part 3 of 2.2.5, this time with the aggregators. So we previously talked about roles, and we talked about how we've been using a fixed role, the accumulator role, and now we want to create a running list instead. So instead of totaling them all up, we want to just create a list that continues on. So why use an aggregator variable? This is to collect items and remember each of them. The pattern for an aggregator is to initialize an empty collection, so an empty place for us to put our list. Append element during the iteration. So during the for loop, we're going to add an append, and then use the aggregator after the loop again. So you can see that we have some code here that didn't quite make sense to me. But this is what an append argument looks like. I'm going to explain it in the code. And then this is actually much more of what the pattern should look like. So we're creating an empty list, and that is shown by having literally brackets with nothing in it, an empty list. And that's how you initialize. And then for the element in irritable, so for the loop, we're going to add an append. So we're going to take that initial aggregator variable. We're going to write .append. That lets the computer know that it's going to go in to this empty list. We're going to do whatever we need to do to that, and then we're going to print that, of course, because our for loop is useless if the computer's not printing it out for us. So this is actually a very good use of the code. So let's go to the assignment, part 3. And you'll see here that we're defining the function, but we're not actually going to do that in my code. But we have the variables of 10, 20, 16, 30 again for rooms. And we want to create the list of 140, 256, 90. So I have right here, this is the variable. Again, the green is just my comments. So this is the aggregator variable. This is the aggregator empty list. So this is what we're going to output into. This is my for loop that iterates the list. Again, so it goes through each individual room to create our for loop. And then here's where the append comes in. So we're going to get the room area. So that's our empty list. Fill it with, so append with to the second power. So for width in rooms, so for each one of these in the room, we're going to take it to the second power. So we're going to iterate through, and then hopefully after we hit print and we print the aggregator, which you can see if I highlight, it highlights every place I've used the aggregator, so you can see the pattern. And ideally, you're going to get this list, 10, 40, 256, 90, when you print it out. Ignore what lines it says it's in, but remember to explain how room area variable relates to the aggregator pattern, and make sure you use the words for loop, iterate, I'll also accept repeat, and aggregator. So I talked to my sister who uses Python a lot, and using images of the forest taken from Jones, the forest is able to survey heights of trees, and this is kind of how she would actually use Python as a geological information systems computer science person. However, she said she wouldn't ever convert it to inches, so she probably use centimeters. So we're going to come over here, and I've written the code down here. Now again, we got to start with our variable. Here's our variable, heights, and our aggregator is 2 inches. So, and you can see Mr. Berklid signed his initials. You always have to be writing your name in the code when you're taking screenshots of it, or you have to show your username. So let's take a look at what we have going on here. This is extra. This is just me having fun. And but here, let's start here. Variable. Again, so this is your variable list. This is now your empty list where you start your aggregator. This initializes the aggregator. And now we have our for loop. So I want to make sure you get the indents right. So here's our for loop. And now we have our aggregator dot append. So we're adding to this list here. And then we're going to iterate through each of these heights times 12. So this is 30 feet. We want it in inches, so we have to go times 12. And we iterate through 30, 20, 20. And that should create a list, if we go back after you hit run, of 360, 240, 240. Now I'm a little extra, and I wanted it to say, when it printed, inches equal, and then it would put in the list. But you only need this to get your answers. The next one is this. So this is trying to tell you, hopefully you can figure this out on your own. However, if you can't, I have it for you. And I probably shouldn't give it to you, but I have it. So I'm going to scroll down here to the end of my code where I hit it. So you can see my variable right away is the phrase. So you want to define your variable first, create your aggregator list or your empty list second. And now we want to split the phrase. Basically, I want to take the literal phrase, take any phrase from the document, and split it into its individual words. So the words are the phrase split. So 4 words in words. Well, actually, or letter in each word, basically. For each letter in the word. Let's do letters. Remember, you have to stay consistent. So for the lengths is our agitator right here. We're going to append and find the length. That's what len means. Means we're finding the amount of characters in the variable. And the variable is each one of these words. So each set of these letters, each of the letters in the word. And then we want to print our aggregator list. So ideally, it would print out 4, 3, 6, 4, 3, and then I think that's 8. And it would tell you how many letters are in each of these words. Again, make sure when you're doing screenshots, you got your name on it. I'm not giving credit if I don't see your name. See that you are the one that wrote it. I will kick it back at you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out. And I hope these videos helped.